Chapter 2. The night Tucson changed movements. Distortions, chaos. Kindred whispered through hallways and hidden chambers, each one trying to guess what came next. Rumors spread faster than blood. Fear moved through Lettow's mansion like smoke, slipping beneath doors, crawling over marble floors, settling in the throats of monsters who had forgotten what it meant to be afraid. Some fled, some prepared for war. Others simply waited, watching the city tremble beneath the weight of a single impossible truth. Prince Lettow Kaminsky was dead. But to Isla Nazari, all of it was noise. She moved through the panic without hesitation, her thoughts fixed on one thing alone: the young intruder she had captured moments earlier, the girl who had appeared from nowhere, the girl she had locked away under the certainty that she was a spy, or worse. Isla went straight to the chamber where Fae Pierce had been confined, but by the time she arrived, the scene had already changed. Fae was on her knees, and standing before her was Kaitlyn Thorne. Kaitlyn did not need to announce herself. Her presence alone commanded the room. She radiated control with the effortless certainty of a born ruler. A native Ventru, elegant and merciless, she carried the kind of authority that made introductions irrelevant. Wherever she stood, power arranged itself around her. The air seemed to tighten around her body, around her voice, around the quiet violence of her composure. She did not turn toward the door. She did not need to. She already knew Isla was there, and before rage could speak for her, Kaitlyn's presence reached out like velvet wrapped around steel, settling over Isla's fury just enough to keep it from erupting, not calming it, owning it. Then she spoke, calm and absolute. Killing her does nothing. Using her to extinguish them, that makes a difference. Only then did Isla truly look at the girl. Fae Pierce was young, newly embraced, dangerous, yes, but raw, unstable, undisciplined. There was power in her, but no refinement, no real direction. Suspicion had been justified. Yet Kaitlyn saw beyond suspicion, and Isla, in that moment, saw it too. Fae was not the cause. She was a pawn, a sacrificial piece placed on the board so that someone else could survive. The true hand behind this, Kaitlyn said, her gaze hardening, is the Sabbat Bishop. The title settled into the room like a blade laid across a throat. No name yet, only function, only guilt, only the shape of the enemy. And this girl, Kaitlyn continued, looking down at Fae, will lead us to her. Then Kaitlyn acted. Using Dominate, her most terrifying gift, she entered Fae's mind and stripped away what little freedom remained there. She did not simply command obedience, she reshaped the architecture of the girl's will. Any thought of resistance, any instinct toward independence was sealed away beneath layers of absolute control. It was intimate in the cruelest way, a hand inside the soul, a voice where choice used to live. Fae trembled once, then went still. Deep within her psyche, Kaitlyn left a mark, a seal, a command structure, a mental lock that answered to her and her alone. For Fae, being trapped inside something beautiful was not new. Being dominated was not new either. Delilah had done that first. Delilah had taught her obedience through terror, devotion, pain, and the slow corruption of wanting the hand that held the leash. That was the difference. Fae had wanted Delilah, wanted her approval, her attention, her cruelty, her touch, her shadow. But Kaitlyn was different. Kaitlyn did not ask to be wanted, she imposed her. From that night on, Fae Pierce ceased to belong entirely to herself. Only after the seal took hold did Kaitlyn search deeper. Past pain, past obedience, past the training burned into Fae's silence. And there, hidden beneath fear and conditioning, the name surfaced. Delilah. Kaitlyn's expression did not change, but Isla felt the room grow colder. Bishop Delilah, Kaitlyn said at last. Now the name had weight. Now it had consequences. She sent her. Fae remained kneeling, eyes empty and open, no longer fully belonging to herself. Kaitlyn kept her close, as servant, instrument, and possession, to be used however she saw fit. And here was where Fae's destiny became darker than it already was. Because for Kaitlyn Thorne, service required utility. Everything had purpose, everything had function, a body, a secret, a weakness, a wound, a desire, a fear. If something could not serve, it disappeared. And Fae, with all her silence and damage and dangerous beauty, did not disappear. She became useful, a body for distraction when Kaitlyn wanted relief from the weight of rule or just satisfied herself. A weapon when Tucson needed blood, a locked door full of Sabbat's secrets, a beautiful captive shaped into an answer. Kaitlyn did not treat possession like hunger, she treated it like law, and Fae learned quickly that a cage could be lined in silk and still remain a cage. Kaitlyn did not ask to be wanted, she imposed herself. The bond forced into Fae's blood, combined with the seal carved into her mind, began to confuse something deeper than thought. Her beast. Her instincts no longer knew which hand to fear, which voice to obey, which wound to ache for. Desire and command began to blur. Need and obedience folded into each other. And somewhere between Delilah's old conditioning and Kaitlyn's new ownership, Fae Pierce began to fracture. Not loudly, not visibly. That would have been easier. Instead, she became quieter, more still, more watchful. A girl with two ghosts inside her body and no permission to choose which one she belonged to. And in Tucson, that made her more dangerous than anyone understood. But for a Ventrue like Kaitlyn Thorne, danger was not something to avoid. It was something to master, something to place on its knees, something to teach obedience until even its teeth became useful. Kaitlyn had always taken what she wanted, quietly, elegantly, without ever making the mistake of appearing hungry. Desire, in her hands, did not look like desperation. It looked like policy, like law, like inevitability, and Fae Pierce was no exception. At first, Kaitlyn's interest in her was not tenderness. It was blood, ancient blood, too ancient for the fragile body that carried it, too heavy for a girl so young, so newly embraced, so unaware of the inheritance sleeping inside her veins. Kaitlyn could feel it. Not fully understand it, not yet, but sense it the way a predator senses heat beneath skin. There was something old in Fae, something wasted on the Sabbat, something that should have been claimed, studied, controlled. Diablerie would have been the simplest answer, the most intimate theft, the final consumption. But Kaitlyn was not a fool ruled by appetite. To devour Fae would stain her ascent before it was complete. A prince could survive cruelty. A prince could survive manipulation. A prince could even survive fear. But some sins were politically inconvenient when performed too early. So Kaitlyn did not consume the girl. She refined her. She made her serve. A weapon, yes, but more than that. A contingency. A shadow kept close in case another shadow failed. A blade hidden beneath silk. A backup plan already being mapped in the quiet corners of Kaitlyn's mind should Isla Nazari ever lose control completely. Because Kaitlyn loved power, but she trusted structure. And no matter how useful Isla was, no matter how beautifully lethal, grief had made her unstable. Dangerous. Devoted, perhaps, but devotion could become a fire if left too close to old wounds. Fae gave Kaitlyn another option, another leash, another instrument, another body through which Tucson could be kept obedient. Kaitlyn Thorne did not seize Tucson. She let it unravel until she was the only one left standing. In the aftermath of Lettow's death, the city fractured. Its power structures cracked, its loyalties shifted, and fear made weak creatures of those who had once seemed untouchable. Elders whispered behind locked doors. Soleil reconsidered old promises. Neonates learned very quickly that survival belonged to those who chose the winning side before the winner was crowned. Kaitlyn moved through that collapse with measured precision. She did not rush. She did not beg. She did not challenge the city like a brute demanding a throne. She removed instability, silenced dissent, exposed weakness, reshaped loyalty until resistance became not only dangerous, but meaningless. By the time Tucson looked up, the throne had already formed around her. And so she rose as the new Camarilla Prince of Tucson. Not because the city loved her, not because the city trusted her, but because no one else could hold what she had already taken. Since then, Tucson has been remade in her image, elegant, cold, controlled, and always watching. Under Kaitlyn's reign, Kindred activity is regulated with surgical precision. Technology is restricted. Public displays of power are forbidden. Private mistakes are recorded. Every movement is logged, questioned, corrected, or erased. There is no wasted violence in her domain, no theatrical cruelty, no chaos without purpose. Kaitlyn's Tucson does not scream, it tightens. It watches from cameras no one admits exist. It listens through servants who smiled too politely. It remembers who entered which room, who left with blood on their cuffs, who lied too quickly, who touched whom too long. In her hands, the masquerade is no longer merely a protective veil. It is a weapon, sharp, controlled, turned inward as much as outward. A beautiful lie wrapped around the throat of every kindred in the city. And Kaitlyn holds the handle.